Hello, and welcome to another episode in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. My name is Jason Perkins. I'm an attorney who specializes in handling Georgia workers' compensation cases. I created this series of videos to provide people who've been hurt at work in Georgia with helpful information about Georgia's workers' compensation laws and the benefits they should receive under those laws. Now, let's jump straight into today's topic. Today, I'd like to talk to you about workers' compensation back surgery settlements. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about is that we're discussing Georgia workers' compensation cases. And you also may have questions about what is a back surgery in a Georgia workers' compensation case. So I'm referring to a surgical procedure that's been performed on your back by an authorized workers' compensation doctor to treat a work-related injury. Back surgeries are common procedures that are performed in workers' compensation cases. Some of the most common types include a fusion surgery, a discectomy, or a laminectomy, but there's other types of back surgeries as well. Now, one of the questions we need to discuss is, does workers' compensation in Georgia cover back surgeries? Yes, the workers' compensation insurance company can be responsible for paying for back surgery you need as a result of a workers' compensation injury. But there are limits on their responsibility for that. There's four different limits. One is that there's a time limit. So the insurance company is only responsible for paying for medical treatment that occurs within 400 weeks of when your injury occurred in most situations. If your injury was before July of 2013, that 400-week limit likely does not apply. And there's also some other exceptions to the application of that 400-week limit, the biggest of which is if your injury is designated as catastrophic. In addition to that time limit for the insurance company's responsibility for medical treatment, there are also three other limits. The insurance company is only responsible for paying for treatment with authorized workers' compensation doctors that's reasonably necessary and related to your workers' compensation injury. Now, if the insurance company does have to pay for surgery, what is a back surgery settlement? Well, a settlement is an agreement between you and the insurance company for them to pay you a certain negotiated lump sum amount of money, and in exchange, you give up your future workers' compensation rights. So let's talk about a little bit more what that means. What is a negotiated agreement? Well, basically, that means that neither side can force the other side to settle. Both sides have to reach an agreement. There's some sort of offer and some sort of acceptance of that offer. So the insurance company might make an offer to you and you might accept it, or you might make an offer to the insurance company and they might accept it. But if the parties don't agree, there's not a negotiated agreement. And often there's negotiations that go on back and forth before a final agreement is reached. Now, what about giving up your future workers' compensation rights? Well, in Georgia workers' compensation cases, any workers' compensation settlement has to be approved by a workers' compensation judge. So if there's a settlement agreement reached in your case, there'll be a document drawn up, often referred to as a stipulation and agreement, and that document is basically going to memorialize the terms of the settlement. It's going to say that you are being paid a certain amount of money by the insurance company, and in exchange, you're giving up your future workers' compensation rights. It generally does not affect past benefits that you've already received, but affects future benefits that you might be eligible for. Now, it is also common in many workers' compensation settlements that the insurance company or your employer may want you to sign other documents as part of settlement of your case. Some common types of other documents include a general release and a resignation and agreement not to reapply. These documents are usually outside of your workers' compensation case, but insurance companies and employers often want them if they're going to settle your workers' compensation case. It is important to understand that these documents affect your rights in different ways than the settlement of your workers' compensation case does. Now, one question you may be wondering is, how much should you settle your back surgery workers' compensation case for? Now, that's a question that I get asked quite a bit. I've represented many people who've had back surgery workers' compensation cases. Um, when I'm asked this question by someone, I do a settlement evaluation for them. So if I'm representing them in their workers' compensation case, I go through and calculate what I think they should settle their case for. When I'm doing that, I use a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet because it's a complicated calculation and there's a number of different factors that go into it. Some of the factors are how much is their workers' compensation check? Are they currently receiving a workers' compensation check for being out of work as a result of their injury? Is that check likely to continue in the future? What sort of restrictions do they have from their injury? Are those restrictions temporary or are they likely to be permanent? Do they have a permanent partial disability rating? If so, what is it? Are they going to continue to need medical treatment in the future? What's that medical treatment going to be? And how much is it going to cost? And is their case potentially going to qualify for a catastrophic designation? And those are just a few of the factors that come into consideration of what someone should settle their case for. It's a very detailed analysis. But the question of what you should settle your case for is really two different questions. There's one thing, which is what is the lowest amount that you should accept to settle your workers' compensation case. That's what I refer to as a bottom line number. In other words, if the insurance company's top dollar offer was a certain amount, is it high enough that you should take it? But most people don't want to get the lowest amount that they can get. They'd like to get the highest amount possible in settling your workers' compensation case. And that makes sense. But the workers' compensation insurance company wants to pay as little as possible to settle your workers' compensation case. Why is that? Well, they're a business and they're in business to make money. And your workers' compensation case is costing them money. The more they pay in settlement of your case or any other case, the less money that they make. So they're going to try to settle your case for as little as possible. Now, even though that's the case, they do have a business decision to make about whether they should leave your case open or settle it. And so generally they can be convinced when presented with the right information to pay more money to settle your case. But they're not going to just agree to do that. In order to get them to make the highest offer in your workers' compensation case, it's going to require showing them why your workers' compensation case is going to cost them a lot of money in the future if they don't settle. It really requires a detailed knowledge of Georgia's workers' compensation laws and rules and all the ins and outs and finer points of those laws and rules in order to get the insurance company to their true top dollar. So if you want to get to a true top dollar in settlement, you're really going to have to have a completely detailed understanding of those laws and rules, or you're going to have to get a workers' compensation attorney involved who has specialized knowledge about this area of the law. Now, if you do decide to get a workers' compensation attorney involved to talk about settlement, there are a couple of other potential benefits as well. One is if you reach a settlement in your case, there's going to be some paperwork that needs to be done. If you have an attorney involved in your case, that workers' compensation attorney should review that paperwork and is likely going to make changes in it to make sure that it's fair to you and discuss those changes with you. Another thing is if you get a workers' compensation attorney involved in your case, that attorney is not generally just involved to settle your case. They're helping out with all the workers' compensation issues in your case. So they're going to try to do other things to make sure that you receive all the benefits that you should in your workers' compensation case prior to settlement.
I hope you found the information in this video helpful. If you have, please consider two things before you go. First, I'd really appreciate if you give this video a like or a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to this channel if you'd like to be notified of future videos in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. Second, if you've got workers' compensation questions, please reach out to get answers. I offer free consultations in Georgia workers' compensation cases. If you'd like to set one of those up, there's two easy ways you can do so. The first is by calling the phone number at the bottom of the screen, and the other is by reaching out to us to our website, which is www.perkinslawtalk.com. Just click on and submit the free consultation request form there, and a member of our team will reach out to you and get a consultation scheduled. I'd like to thank you again for watching this video today. I'd like to wish you the best of luck as you recover from your injuries.